So, today we are playing some Tekken 4. This was a very experimental game and it made a lot of changes to the formula. And when you do something for the first time ever, you are bound to make a few mistakes, but in this case those mistakes almost kill the entire franchise. But one thing they got very right and people still praise it to this day are the aesthetics of this game. Tekken 4 had a much more serious tone to it than the rest of the series. So today we're gonna be ranking the aesthetics and the visual design of this game's stages.
Let's go!
There are 12 in total and I guess we can start with this absolute classic. Everybody remembers the airport stage. You got the crew over there cheering as Kazuya prepares to beat the shit out of a single mom. Either way, the vibes on this stage are crazy. The lighting, the colors, the setting in general creates an amazing aesthetic. The music fits pretty nicely, and when it comes to the sound, you can hear the plane engine in the background and also just planes taking off at a distance, which feels pretty immersive, right? But unfortunately, that's just part of the soundtrack. If you look around, there are no actual planes taking off, which would be a nice detail to add to this stage, especially because this side of the stage does look a little empty. Having some hangars, some signs or control towers, or you know, some planes taking off into the sky would have been pretty cool. But we have NPCs outside and inside the airport, and I appreciate the fact that they made the glass transparent so you can see inside the building. But when it comes to environmental interaction, this stage does feel a little lacking. I mean, you can hit your opponent into the plane wheel, which is pretty cool, but these pillars around here don't have any collision and they just evaporate when you go near them. The cement supports suffer from the same problem, and personally I would have preferred if they just stuck to either physical or destructible, but this evaporation tech, I'm not a huge fan. Also, much like Tekken 8, Tekken 4 does not have infinite stages. So how did they limit the play area? There is this metal fence that only shows up when a character is close in order to limit how far you can go. But personally, I find that kinda lame. I mean, I understand why they did it, of course, but having this metal fence just materialize whenever a character gets close, it's kinda weird, not gonna lie. Either way, I feel like there are a few faults with this stage that will keep it from S tier, so I'm gonna drop it into A+. Also, this is still one of the biggest stages in the entire Tekken franchise. Like, we don't have any official dimensions, but the playable area is huge. Anyway, who we have next? Building. Look, I'm just gonna say it, this right here is probably the best stage in this entire game. The aesthetics are immaculate as fuck. I mean, just look at the screen, Michael! To be honest, I don't think I have anything to complain about here, but I'm sure we can find something. First things first though, I love the look of these windows. Their lighting adds a lot to this stage, and you can see Jin's feet adjusting to the changes in elevation. Plus, they have a unique sound when your character steps on them. If this was Tekken 7 or Tekken 8, this would totally be a floor break or something. I also love the fact that it's not just a texture of glass, but they actually have transparency and allow you to see through them like actual glass. Bro, for real, like just these windows by themselves carry the visuals of this stage so hard, which also creates a contrast between a warm, safe interior and the cold night outside where we're fighting. I mean, just imagine this stage but with a regular cement floor. Like, it would still look cool, but it would be far from the aesthetic masterpiece that it is. This is one of the best stages in Tekken, period. Possibly fighting game history. Also, the way everything is illuminated from below gives it a certain mysterious, almost sinister look to it, and the choppers flying around also add to it. But yes, it is a large stage and not all areas look that insane, yet even the worst area here still looks pretty good. We can also see many different statues around this place, which are pretty detailed, and the lighting on them, I'm fairly certain is painted, but it looks great. And also, they are fully destructible. As long as you can make contact with a statue in this stage, then you can destroy it. The chariots though are out of bounds, but anything inside the play area is fair game. Now, the front of the building though could maybe have used some lights on the floor or something, but overall still looks pretty good. Also, the clock does not move, but it would be pretty cool if it did. Besides that, the entire background of this stage looks absolutely beautiful. You have a bunch of buildings, a lot of lights, the city on the other side, and that sky looking authentic as fuck. Everything feels very alive, and there's also this clash of modern versus classic architecture here with the statues and the city background. That's just beautiful to look at. So this is going straight into the S tier, no doubt. If I die and heaven doesn't look like that, I will be disappointed. This shit makes me feel inspired and depressed at the same time. Like I want to kill myself, but also still have hope for a better future. And the music fits really well with his introspective ambiance. 10 out of 10, love it. This game actually has a lot of very good stages, but anyway, let's keep it going. Shopping mall environments in video games are usually pretty interesting, and this one is no exception. I mean, it is a mall, and it looks like a mall because it's supposed to, but they added a lot of cool things around here, like this little water fountain, for example, where you can get Nina and Christy all wet, but the little water jets are seemingly coming out of the lights, which isn't very immersive. But they do have different patterns and timings, which is cool to see, so it doesn't always just look the same. What is immersive, though, is the fact that all of the shops in the playable area are unique. We have clothing stores, jewelry stores, a fancy-looking hotel, we got a coffee shop on the other side for all the Azucena mains, and then there's an elevated balcony with people cheering and stuff, which is always nice to see. I mean, I'd be having a great time watching two women fighting in the middle of the mall fountain, like, bro. This is a pretty large space, but there are also plenty of obstacles around here. These barriers act as a wall and they can't be broken, yet these pillars over here near the Garden Hotel, they can be broken, and even utilized as combo starters if you know any combos. Also, something that really helps this stage visually is all the different floor textures they use to make every area look a little different. Like, for example, all the different marble patterns and the rough floor around the fountain with a black marble inserts. And also, if we start looking at the ceiling, you're gonna see a bunch of details, a bunch of lights, architectural inserts, and I mean, just look at these pillars right here. Like, that shit looks exotic as fuck. And then there is the balcony, which looks incredible and lets you see the other floors in the mall as well. Both the handrails are breakable, and those buildings outside also look great with that soft lighting. The pink tones for the sky is something they use a lot in this game, and it kind of reminds me of Vice City. The palm trees in the interior of the mall also add a lot to this scene. Like, Tekken 4 has a very tropical vibe to it, and Christy might have something to do with that. But you know, I also have to complain about some shit as well, so it would be very cool if the glass could shatter or just react in some way to getting hit, but it doesn't. It is still a great stage though, and in my opinion, it's also gonna go into the S tier. It is very visually pleasing, and nothing looks really like empty or overdone. Also, the shape of this stage is very unique. Alright, now I might piss some people off with this one, but just hear me out. The laboratory is a simple stage, but very atmospheric. I just love the gas or smoke or whatever is being pumped into this stage through those tubes, but it creates an amazing visual effect. And also, you can actually destroy some of the piping in this stage. The walls on each side are the same, but the signs on them are readable, which is a nice detail. And speaking of detail, this door looks pretty sick. It has a bunch of different technological parts, and the screen on the side, the camera with a laser, that looks like some toppest of secrets type shit. But if we go over to the other side, that just looks like they didn't really know what to do with this side of the stage. Now, the darkness does add a little to the mystery and whatnot, but I mean, this is literally just a fucking hallway. And I enjoy the lights on the walls, the cameras, the details on the floor. It's nice, but for a laboratory, I feel like they could have done something bigger and better. Maybe like display some Mishima Zaibatsu's experiments on people or some shit. I don't know. Imagine seeing ancient ogre's body in like one of those liquid container thingies, because Heihachi did try to run some experiments on him. I feel like they had a chance here to show off some of the messed up work from these guys, but we just got a fucking hallway instead, which, I mean, you know, looks cool, I guess. I mean, I like the vibe of this place, but at the same time it always feels a little disappointing because, you know, it's a laboratory. Look, I love sci-fi and the concepts of biological experimentation. I also love aliens, just creatures in general, body horror, cosmic horror, and this shit just feels like a missed opportunity to me. So this stage is gonna be getting his own tier of kinda cool, but also go fuck yourself. Also, the music in this stage is a little white noise sounding, but you know, if you have trouble sleeping at night, this might actually help you with that. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fog, this stage would have looked like the most basic shit ever. The only really interesting design element is basically the door, and I guess the glass panels on the ceiling are pretty cool as well. But anyway, moving on to a much more interesting place. This is a bustling city center with lots of lights, lots of billboards, very lively looking, very detailed. There is a lot to look at here, and there's a bunch of NPCs everywhere. Like, this stage looks pretty nice. Plus, those floor textures looking sexy as fuck. Candy Honey Cafe over here with all the people inside has a very modern interior design. It looks incredible. But what I really like about this is that your camera can go through the window and it almost makes you feel like a spectator to the fight that's happening outside. Dinosaur Burger open 24 hours, yet there are no cashiers in the back there. Yo, are these people cheering or are they asking for help? Are they trapped in there? Also, this NPC is standing in front of the window decal, which I'm sure he's not supposed to. This might be an emulator thing, but probably not. We got a movie theater over here, but unfortunately I brought Paul with me instead of Jin, so I don't think Xiaoyu is too interested. Still, if you want to get your hands on some tickets, you can do that over there. All the shops in the playable area are unique, and then the map just kinda ends a little abruptly over there, but that's fine. I'm sure that would look better in an old television. But speaking of map limits, this metal fence doesn't look great. This is the same barrier they use for the airport, but in the middle of the street like this, I mean, I don't know. The way it's designed here, it makes it feel very video game barrier, you know, and not so much like a natural element of this environment, you know. Another thing they took from the airport is the evaporating pillar technology. You'll love to see it. But there is a pillar outside of Cafe Honey, which is physical. Also, this Mishimaya supermarket, I looked it up, and apparently there is an actual Mishimaya supermarket. It's not the same logo, but I mean, coincidence? Maybe Mishimaya just means something, you know, general in Japanese. I don't fucking know. They are hiring though, but before you give them a call, I gotta warn you, all the phone booths in this place are completely destructible, and the best part about it is that they don't just immediately break. The glass will shatter with a first hit, and then you need another impact to actually destroy it, which adds an element of visual damage to the environment before they completely break and disappear. So when it comes to the tier list, I'm probably gonna do this. I mean, on one hand, I want to do this because the airport is a much more unique environment, but I think I'm gonna keep it like this. Next up, we have the Underground Fight Club. And always remember that the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. So, next stage, what do we have here? Nah, I'm kidding. Look, this is one of my favorite stages in this game. This shit is atmospheric atmospheric as fuck. The music is great, you have the crowd around you cheering, and you can hit these NPCs as well, which is very fun. If you're gonna sit in the front row to a fight with no barriers, no nothing, like, you better be ready to get some hands too. And these guys, bro, they take it on the chin, get up and keep cheering. It's great, I love the vibes. It's not a super visually impressive stage, but concept-wise, it's fucking sick. It's literally like a circle pit in an abandoned warehouse or whatever where people are fighting. Like, it's amazing. This is the best Fight Club stage I have ever seen in my life. That shit feels underground, it feels illegal, which is good. The arena is very improvised because this is not some organized tournament or whatever, and if the cops show up, they gotta run. And also, just the sheer NPC density for the PS2 is kind of impressive, not gonna lie. I mean, yes, they look like shit compared to the actual playable characters, but you know, this is kinda standard for this era of gaming. Otherwise, this would have been a very performance-intensive stage. Overall, I love the gritty, grimy, and closed-in feel of this stage, the graffiti on the floor, the crates on the background, the goddamn light bars, everything just looks and feels the way it should, you know? Unfortunately though, this kind of claustrophobic design is kinda locked to these older games, because if this was Tekken 8, people would be getting wall-to-wall-to-wall combos non-stop. In Tekken 7, you could maybe do it, because you don't have heat burst or tornadoes at the wall, but it would still get kinda crazy and people would probably complain about it. I also like how the center of the arena is the only place that's illuminated and the rest of the warehouse is kinda dark, because it helps bringing the focus to the center of the stage and the characters. It's like they're saying, this is the main attraction, everything else doesn't matter, this is why you're here, and you better lock in. I don't even mind the bland color palette because it just feels right for this type of environment, but the NPCs also help a lot in regards to visual variety. They add color, they add life to this environment. Also, they will cheer when someone gets hit with a strong move. All the spectators around, like, those guys are the real MVPs. Anyway, this stage just shits out aura and it's fucking amazing. I don't think it's quite at the level of building or mall, but for a small stage, you know, I'm still gonna give it an A+. And something that would be sick to add to this stage would be physics on the lights, or just have them break if an opponent hits them, which would kind of fuck up the lighting as well, you know? But look, maybe you could just have them like flicker for a few seconds or something. Anyway, next stage, and we have Hon-maru. This actually took a bit of work because in order to unlock this stage, you have to first beat the Tekken Force game mode, and this will be the final room. And this stage has a very nice vibe to it. It feels very ominous, especially with the music and the dim lighting. Those torches, though, are a major fire hazard, and we have no extinguishers around here. Like, bro, I don't think this place is up to regulation. But either way, this is a pretty cool stage, don't get me wrong. But considering everything we've seen so far, like, this is a pretty simplistic stage, which is fine. It's a martial arts dojo. We always need one of those in a Tekken game, but it's not the most visually impressive stage. Also, the statues on the background, I'm fairly certain they're just images, they're not 3D objects, but the center one still looks pretty good. The ones on the side though, I don't know, something looks a little off about them, but it might just have to do with like the upscaling on the emulator. Also, we have some patterns on the ceiling which add some nice detail to the top of the stage. Unfortunately, the lighting is completely fake, which makes some transitions from the floor to the walls look a little weird, and the character shadows don't give two fucks about light sources. And I mean, no stage has dynamic lighting like that, but this is a pretty small stage with mostly basic shapes. The statues are fucking image files and the lighting is all fake, so like I'm pretty sure this is rather lightweight when it comes to performance, and they could have used that extra space or memory or whatever to make something cool with the shadows. But there's also the chance that this engine just didn't have those capabilities at the time. So realistically, I mean, it's pretty cool, you know, I mean, look, it's alright, but it also might be the worst stage in the game. So that's gonna be our first B tier stage. Honestly, making a tier list like this for this game is actually kinda tough, because some of these stages are the size of small towns, while others are just regular fighting game stages, and they almost feel like they should be in separate tier lists. But anyway, moving on to the beach. First things first, this stage is set in Rio de Janeiro, and that mountain over there in the back is an actual site you can see in Rio de Janeiro. That mountain is called Morro dos Dois Irmãos, which means Hill of the Two Brothers. If you ever visit Rio de Janeiro, that is something you can see there, although in real life that would be towards the end of the beach, not towards the city, but it is a real life location, and that's pretty cool. But anyway, when it comes to the stage though, the water looks absolutely beautiful, yet these boys over here aren't gonna let you stray too far from the beach, otherwise the lifeguard cannot be held responsible. On the sand you have a bunch of trees. The bigger ones are actual physical objects, the smaller ones are not. I don't really like it when they make characters just go through certain objects, but also characters being able to ignore like small trees or bushes or, you know, things of that nature. Like, it's not unheard of in video games, so it feels a bit more acceptable, I guess. But there's also this little cabin over here, and if you happen to go on this side of it, like, this is a straight back alley brawl, very tight space, very cool. I mean, from a casual perspective, that's very cool. It adds some variation to the stages and to the type of situations you can find yourself in. But of course, from a competitive standpoint, you'd want something stable and with as little variation as possible. Overall though, this stage is super cool, one of my favorites for sure. It's a pretty big space that you can almost separate in two different parts. You have the obstacle-filled beach, and then you have the clean open space in the water. Each side of the stage kind of offers a different experience, which is great. There is also a bunch of graffitis in the walls, and they are decently varied and they give off that urban vibe. I love what they did with the sky in this stage, like those clouds are very detailed. The city on the background also looks incredible. I mean, honestly, the only thing we're missing here is some DLC bikini outfits and shadows that don't disappear when you go into the water. Either way, I almost wanna give this S tier, but realistically, I think I'm gonna give it like top of A. And honestly, you know what? I am gonna do this. Fuck it, the airport is sick. And up next, we got the jungle. This stage has no shortage of ethereal objects that disappear when your character gets close. But again, since they are mostly small trees and bushes, I don't really care too much. These giant trees are physical though, and you can even walk around this one because it is in the middle of the stage, which is cool. Now, while I really like this stage, I don't have much to say about it. It kinda reminds me of like an old school Monster Hunter map where you're looking for a fucking Rathalos in the forest and getting tossed around by boars. Although the background of this stage might have an even lower resolution than an old school Monster Hunter map in the PSP, yet it still gets the point across of a lush forest, so it's kind of fine. I mean, we are talking about the PS2 here. And ethereal or not, this stage is actually pretty packed with objects. But anyway, towards the bottom of this stage, we have this little section of a river that's blocked off by these two fallen trees. And the water in this game just looks amazing. Honestly, I don't know what they did to it. It might not even be the most realistic water, but it's gotta be one of the best looking water I've ever seen. I also really like the steam coming off of the environment from all the evapotranspiration. It's always a great detail to add to any tropical environment. And overall, it's a pretty vibrant stage. I really like it. And these plants provide some much needed extra color which you can also see on the floor sometimes. These red accents here and there will give your eyes a bit of a break from all the greens and the browns, even though the green and brown palette is decently varied. But overall, I do think it is still better than Hon-maru, so it's gonna go into B+. Although personally, I would have liked to see some wildlife in this stage, but unless you bring the Jaguar with you, there is nothing out here. So up next, we're gonna have the area of parking. As someone that used to watch wrestling and owned various SmackDown vs. Raw games, a parking lot stage looks like a very cool idea to me, but at the same time, I feel like they could have probably done a better job here. You can have a pretty cool parking lot if you play well with the lighting and the colors, but this one looks a little generic and kinda bland color-wise. I appreciate the little tiled section over here, it really adds to this place, although some NPCs in there would also be nice. The reflections on the smooth floor are also pretty decent overall. They have some decent lighting here, but nothing in the background really stands out too much. I wish they had like a darker floor, some color on the pillars, which are destructible by the way, at least the ones in the middle of the stage. The ones that are part of the wall aren't. And speaking of destructible objects, all the pipes in this place are the same as in the laboratory stage, so they are all breakable as well. Yet the mirrors don't actually mirror, and instead they just have a blurry image built in, although it does kinda look like this place, so maybe they use it as a reference or something. The music in this stage is not terrible, but not my favorite either, and for a parking lot we only have 2 cars here. And it would be cool if the cars reacted to getting hit somehow, like the suspension, or just have some visual damage, but they don't. One of my favorite things about this stage though is that the ceiling is pretty low, and so some characters can actually roof splat their opponents, which is something I think should definitely return to Tekken. Now, there are other places in this game where you can do this type of stuff, but when it comes to the parking area, it is literally a feature of the entire stage. All in all, I do have some issues with it, but overall it is still a nice stage, and I think I'm gonna give it like an A tier. Also, this stage has these metal parts on the floor here, which aren't very big, but they do have a different sound from the rest of the cement floor, and I think that's pretty cool. Now, this next stage has 2 different spawn points, but honestly, it's not even that big.
That's what she said.
This is the only stage with more than 1 background track, and I found this list on the wiki online, but the one that's playing right now is the Kazuya theme song from Tekken 2, I believe, which is not even on that list, so there might be more, I don't know. Either way, this looks like a very classy, very luxurious place, even though I'm not exactly sure what this place is supposed to be exactly, but the logo looks like a scorpion combined with a mustache, and I love it. Besides that, I love the colors, very vibrant looking. The floor also has a bunch of different patterns. This is rather simple, but it's also kinda nice to look at, not gonna lie. All the pillars in this stage are breakable, and they will actually take visible damage before they are completely destroyed. But this statue in the middle here looks absolutely crazy, a lot of detail, and it's also fully destructible. But the best part about it is that because it's such a large structure, it's actually split in 2 different parts. Once again, adding a layer of visual damage to the stage, which I love to see. And when it comes to this stage specifically, I mean, you can literally break everything in here. And by the way, these columns have lamps on top of them, which are shining onto the ceiling, or at least that's the idea. But even if you destroy them, the light reflection will still be there, because again, all the lighting in this game is completely fake. But honestly, my biggest gripe with this stage is the fact that I can't really place it in a location. Like, where the fuck am I actually fighting? Like, why does this look like some liminal space space or some back room or whatever. I understand some people might like that, but I don't. And when it comes to Tekken 4, which feels very grounded, this kinda throws me off. But I do appreciate that everything's destructible, so I might... Nah, you know what, that's fine. I'm gonna keep it like this. And last but not least, we have the arena, although to be honest, the most memorable thing about this stage was probably Heihachi's alternate outfit. Mr. King of the Iron Cheeks over here. But anyway, this is our arena stage, because this is the Iron Fist tournament, and it's also going to be the final stage of arcade mode for most characters. I like the MMA style ring design with a chain link fence and a metal floor, even though there are some details on the floor that only show up when the camera is close for some reason. I'm not sure why they couldn't just render everything at once, but whatever. The steam going through the light looks very cool though, and I also really like that the stadium has an open top and you can see the large buildings around you, so this probably takes place in the middle of a big city. We got a bunch of spectators going crazy over here, and they have a total of 8 different sprites for the crowd, which is not bad, but I feel like they could have spread them around a little better in some areas, but it's fine. And just like in the underground stage, the crowd will cheer when you hit your opponent with a big move. At first I thought these crowd reactions had something to do with knockdowns, but this won't do it, and the Hell Sweep won't do it either, so the factor here seems to be damage. Kazuya's abolishing fist, for example, does not trigger a crowd reaction when hit from the front, but if you hit it from the side or the back, which does more damage, then it does trigger a crowd reaction. But anyway, I also really like that fire animation, but what doesn't feel very alive though are the far stands, because they are completely static. Look, if I showed this to someone and they thought it was a fucking brick wall, like, I couldn't really blame them. Besides that, it's a pretty traditional symmetric stage with a little pro wrestling style walkway. We also have the screen on top that shows you what your camera is looking at, including the screen itself, which should result in one of those loops of like a screen on a screen on a screen, you know what I mean. The music for the stage is also pretty nice. It's simple but effective, which is something that could honestly be used to describe the entire stage, and honestly, I'm gonna give it like an A tier. So, looking at it now, would I change anything here? To be honest, yeah, you know what? I do think the beach does deserve an S tier. So, that's my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Peace!